Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
All right, Broncos country. Sit down, buckle up, and grab whatever orange and blue beverage you keep in the fridge for emergencies like this, because I have got a doozy for you today. Somewhere in a windowless office in Bristol, Connecticut, a small army of football nerds fed every single roster in the National Football League into a machine. Cross-referenced 90-man depth charts, argued about it for probably way too long, and then spit out a massive 100-page ranking of where every team in football actually stands heading into next season. And folks, I've read it. I've dug through every page of it, and I am telling you right now, the results should have Broncos country absolutely buzzing. Because even the most cautious, hedge your bets, still not totally sold on us analysts in the entire sports media landscape are now standing up and saying the football world better keep an eye on Denver. I am a certifiably diehard Broncos fan, and this channel is where we break down every ounce of Broncos news with the energy it deserves. So if that sounds like your kind of place, do me a favor right now before we even get into the meat of this thing. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get into it, because we are inching closer and closer to actual, real, meaningful Bo Nix football, and I genuinely cannot wait. Here's the setup. This offseason has been, by Broncos standards, shockingly quiet. No madness, no blockbuster splash signings plastered across every NFL app notification. Sean Payton didn't go out there and empty the bank vault in free agency the way some fans maybe wanted him to, especially with a young quarterback sitting right in the middle of his Super Bowl window. And look, I get why that made some people nervous. When your guy is playing on a rookie contract and every wasted year is a year you'll never get back, you want the front office sprinting, not walking. But here's the thing about this ESPN mega ranking. It's basically a giant vote of confidence that says the front office didn't need to panic spend, because the roster that's already sitting in that building is quietly one of the best assembled top to bottom anywhere in this conference. So let's get into the actual numbers, because they are wild. According to the big board, the Broncos come in as the third best roster in the entire AFC and the eighth best in the whole NFL. Now stick with me, because on paper that might sound like okay, decent, not bad, but when you actually look at who is ranked above us, the whole thing starts to look a little suspicious. The only three teams ranked ahead of the entire NFL are all NFC clubs: the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Eagles. Fine, whatever, that's a different conference, a different conversation. But in our own conference, the AFC, there are exactly three teams the analysts have stacked above the Broncos, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, and the New England Patriots. And I need you to sit with that for a second, because two of those three teams are ones we have very, very recent receipts on. Let's start with Buffalo. The last time these two teams actually stepped on a field together, it was a playoff game, and Bo Nix went blow for blow with Josh Allen, a former MVP, a guy who gets talked about as one of the top three quarterbacks alive, and Denver walked out of that building with the win. That's not a hypothetical. That's not a projection. That already happened. And since that game, what's changed? Buffalo lost a chunk of their defensive identity and turned around and threw a mountain of guaranteed money at DJ Moore in free agency, essentially paying a premium for a receiver Denver already has an answer for in a completely different and frankly scarier way. Meanwhile, on our side of the ledger, the Broncos didn't stand still either. J.K. Dobbins, who looked like a legitimate difference maker whenever he was healthy last year, is back and ready to roll. Troy Franklin, who spent chunks of his rookie year banged up, is healthy. Pat Bryant, a rookie the coaching staff was buzzing about before he ever got the chance to show it on Sundays because of injury, is healthy too. And on top of all of that, this front office turned around and had by pretty much any measure one of the best draft classes in the entire league. So somebody explain to me, using actual logic, how the team we already beat that got worse at one position and spent big to fix it is supposed to be ranked ahead of the team that got healthier, got deeper, and drafted lights out. It doesn't add up. It's the kind of ranking that looks good on a spreadsheet and terrible the moment you actually watch football. Then there's New England, sitting just a hair above the Broncos on this list. And let's rewind to the last time these two teams actually played each other. because this one should be framed and hung on a wall somewhere in Denver. The Broncos took the field in a straight-up blizzard, snow whipping sideways, an absolute mess of a football game. And they did it without their starting quarterback, without their starting running back, and without two of their starting wide receivers. That is basically a practice squad game plan against a real, functioning NFL roster. And even playing shorthanded in a literal snowstorm, Denver lost by a grand total of 3 points. 3? That is not what a roster gap looks like. That's what happens when the better team just happens to be running out backups that day. So again, spreadsheets are one thing, but tape and history tell a very different story, and Broncos country knows it. Now, the one team on that list I actually think earns its spot ahead of us, at least for now, is Baltimore. The Ravens have been an absolute machine for years, and there's no shame in saying a team that talented and that battle-tested deserves respect. But here's where it gets fun. Even the model behind this whole ranking, run by ESPN's Mike Clay, who put together this massive breakdown of every single position group across the league, still has Baltimore only barely ahead of Denver when it comes to actual projected wins. We're talking a gap so thin you'd need a magnifying glass to see it. Clay's projection has the Broncos finishing with the second most wins in the entire AFC this season. That would lock in a 2 seed heading into the playoffs, home games, a friendlier road, the whole deal. Now look, I'll be honest with you, I do have one bone to pick with this projection, and it's the actual win total attached to it. The model has the Broncos winning right around 11 games next season. And my question is simple. Why on earth would this team take a step backward? Last year, this roster won 14 games. 14, and truthfully, a lot of us watching every single week know it should have been 15, because we all remember exactly how that Colts game slipped away from us in a way that had nothing to do with how well our team played. So forgive me if I raise an eyebrow at a model that thinks a roster returning most of its core, adding a game-changing receiver, getting healthier at running back and receiver, and bringing in a fresh offensive mind as the play caller is somehow supposed to win 3 fewer games than it did a year ago. That's not how ascending young teams with ascending young quarterbacks tend to work. That's not how it works when your quarterback is about to enter year 3. The year almost every single quarterback in modern NFL history takes his biggest leap. So let's actually walk through why this roster is so loaded, position by position, because this is where the real fireworks are. Start up front, on the offensive line, because there is genuinely no debate here. The analysts have Denver's offensive line as the best in the entire AFC, and it isn't particularly close. There are a couple of units out in the NFC playing in that same tier, but within our own conference, the closest comparison is the Chargers' front, and even that comparison comes with a giant asterisk, because that group is currently counting on a couple of guys working their way back from the kind of injuries some players simply never fully return from. Denver's front 5, healthy and humming, is the standard right now in this conference, full stop. Now let's talk about the guy taking snaps behind that offensive line, Bo Nix. The model does list both Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert just slightly ahead of him in terms of quarterback grading, and look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend those two haven't earned that respect over the years. But slightly ahead is doing a lot of work in that sentence, because the gap is razor thin. We're talking the difference between a 6 and a 7 on a quality starter scale, practically a rounding error. And even more encouraging, Bo is graded right there in the same tier as Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Flacco. Third-year quarterback, already mentioned in the same breath as former MVPs and Super Bowl winners. Let that sink in for a second. Here's where things get really spicy though, the wide receiver grade. As of this ranking, Denver's receiving core was scored at just a 6. 6. And I promise you, that number is already outdated the moment it was published, because this grade was calculated before the blockbuster move that brought Jaden Wadd into this offense. The second that trade is fully baked into these models, that receiver grade is going to jump significantly, and it's going to shoot the Broncos well past a whole bunch of teams sitting above them right now, on pure paper value. And speaking of Jaden Wadd, let's talk matchups, because this is the fun part. When you stack the Broncos directly against the defending juggernaut of this division, the Kansas City Chiefs, the gap at quarterback is basically nothing. Running back is close, and receiver? Not close at all. And it swings hard in Denver's favor once you factor in that Kansas City's top target is currently rehabbing a serious knee injury and won't be right for a long stretch of the year. That's a real, tangible advantage sitting right there in black and white. Now, if we're being completely honest and not just doing a highlight reel, there is one spot on this roster that even the model flags as the wild card, the genuine question mark that could swing this whole season one way or the other. And that's the tight end room. Nobody quite knows what to expect there yet, and I actually think that's kind of exciting rather than scary, because Sean Payton clearly knows it too. That's exactly why he went out and used draft capital on Joe Lee, added Bentley to the mix, and has reportedly been talking up 7th-round pick Cale Bloner, a guy who essentially had a redshirt rookie season and is now primed to actually contribute. And let's not forget Evan Ingram, a receiving tight end with real untapped upside, who now gets to play in an offense being called by Davis Webb, a play caller with a much more modern, tight end-friendly system. There is a real chance that question mark turns into one of the pleasant surprises of the season. Let's zoom out to the schedule itself for a second, because this is where Denver fans should be doing a happy dance. According to the model, the Broncos are projected as underdogs in only 4 games all season long. 4. The road opener in Kansas City, where they're given just under a 50% shot, a home game against the Rams that lines up as the toughest test on the slate, and a couple of coin flip road trips to the Rams and the Chargers. That's it. Everywhere else on this schedule, 13 out of 17 games, Denver is favored to win. 13, that is an absolutely enormous number, and it's the kind of schedule that turns good team projections into playing in January realities. And here's maybe the wildest stat buried in this entire report. The model actually projects Bo Nix to have a better statistical season throwing the football than both Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. Not equal to. Better than. And honestly, I buy it completely. We already heard Davis Webb himself talk about how year 3 is traditionally the year a quarterback's whole game clicks into place, when the pre-snap reads slow down, when the operation becomes second nature. Remember, every single national analyst spent last offseason bracing Broncos fans for the dreaded sophomore slump. Instead, Bo went out and won 14 games. So now, heading into year 3 with a legitimate number 1 receiver in Jaden Wadd, a fully healthy J.K. Dobbins in the backfield, and a modern-minded play caller building the game plan, there is a real, tangible case that we are about to watch a full-blown third-year breakout. Add it all up, a dominant offensive line, a quarterback trending toward elite, a receiver room that just got a massive talent injection, a defense poised to be one of the best in football, and a schedule practically begging this team to rack up wins. And it is not some wild leap of logic to say this roster is built to make a real Super Bowl run. Model or no model, spreadsheet or no spreadsheet, the tape doesn't lie. The recent history against these so-called better AFC teams doesn't lie. And the trajectory of this young quarterback doesn't lie either. So Broncos country, that is where we stand heading into training camp. The outside world is finally catching up to what a lot of us have believed for a while now. That this is not a team hoping to sneak into the playoffs. This is a team built from the trenches out that has every single tool it needs to make a genuine championship push. I want to know what you think down in the comments. Do you trust this model's win total? Or do you think Denver blows right past it the way they did last year? Drop your predictions below. Let's get a good debate going in that comment section. And if you enjoyed breaking this down with me, do me a solid, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update as we get closer and closer to kickoff. Broncos country, let's ride into this season together. See you in the next one.